notice we have started on the program, and we'll start with the national anthem as one of the anthem from Africa Union. Some of you have started on the program, and you are not familiar with the anthem, but not to worry. There is text, because this is our Africa, and we need to really embrace it, knowing that we have really earned our continent, and women, you're leading in that continent in different ways. So we are going to start now. We are live on YouTube, which is the Africa Women's Day. If you don't have that channel, you can easily find us on YouTube. If here on Zoom it's difficult for you, you can use that as well. So we are going to start. I want to thank by welcoming you all, taking your time today, being a day in between your busy day on a Thursday. And I wish you a very, very happy Africa's Women Day. So we're going to start with the national anthem, and then we start the program. Thank you so much. I hope you learned something new today, the Africa Union National Anthem. It's also in Swahili, which I encourage you also to try. So I want to thank you again. Welcome everyone to the Africa's Women Day, 31st of July. Did you know we have a day? Maybe not, but today we are here, the 5th anniversary of the awareness program, to present to you Africa's Women's Day, the 31st. Today is an interesting program. We have a very, very tight program, but we're excited because we will be sharing with you quite a lot of activities, and the topic, which is a very, very needed topic. And as you know, these topics are selected from the Africa Union. We are very excited to inform you that the topic of this year will be, as we have mentioned in different setup, is about the African descent and celebrating women in this area. To get us started, I want to also do a little bit of housekeeping here. We have the question and answer on the as you can see down on your bar. You can ask your questions. Today we have a question and answer session. So we also we also have a chat, which I believe you can share with us your question there or comments, and we'll check on that as well. And we'll be sharing new links and hashtags that you can use as well to help us throughout the program. And this will be also a program that you're very excited about, because why we're here is the most important reason. Why are we being here to talk about all this? So we have few ladies here who are going to help me here and have been working very hard in the background to prepare this program. And as you have seen on the screen there is myself, where I did not introduce myself, and I am the chair and the CEO and founder of Africa Women in Trade, as well as leading this program, the Africa Women's Day Awareness, as a project leader. And I'm very excited here because I wear different hats also here in the diaspora. So I'm a Kenyan living in Germany, and I also run an organization here called Africa Women in Europe. So I'm going to invite Abigail Adesi, and as usual, I always call her the CEO of Africa Women's Day, the lady behind quite a lot of work here. And I'm going to give you a bit introduction about her, a small bio, as she comes in to tell us more. Why are we celebrating Africa Women's Day, and why do we do this, and why should we as well? So Abigail is Madam Abigail is a medical psychologist and a seasoned communication specialist, and the creator-director of JG USL Designs, the ones that you have been seeing glamorous, even the what's on your front, with over 5 years of hands-on experience. Her proficiency in graphic design and adeptness in administrative and management tasks span various sectors, including legal, digital media, and religious organization. She served as a project coordinator of Africa Women's Day Awareness Initiative and holds the position of a director of operations at GAS in Tech, Nigeria. They did support us, one of the program we did some years ago, and is a non-profit where she also facilitates graphic design training for young women and empowering them with valuable skills. She is based in Nigeria and a very very hardworking lady. So welcome, Abigail. If you're there, please unmute yourself. They need to see the lady behind this. And there is Abigail, as you can see there. And she's going to come here now and tell us why we celebrate and why she has a lot of passion of preparing this every other year with, and I'm telling you, passion. She does it with a lot of passion to make sure that Africa's Women, they comes out exactly who we are inside, outside, as you can see the colors on all the flyers we have had. So welcome, Madam Abigail.
Thank you so much, Joy, for that wonderful introduction. I'm so happy to be here. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, but good evening from my end to everyone on the call, ladies and gentlemen, if we have any on the call, and to our esteemed guest speakers, all protocols duly observed. Thank you all so much for being here. We're honored to have you all with us here today. So welcome again to the Africa's Women's Day Awareness Celebration 2025. And thank you so much to our beautiful audience for joining us from wherever you're joining us. And we hope that we can at least get to see in the chat, maybe very soon. You could tell us where you're joining from. It would be really nice to know that we're reaching our beautiful brothers and sisters across different continents. So my name is Adeze Abigail. As Joy has introduced me, and I am from Nigeria, and I'm very honored to serve as the project coordinator for this unique global awareness initiative. And so I'll go straight into talking about the history of Africa's Women's Day, as well as the history of the Africa's Women's Day Awareness Initiative. July 31st is no ordinary day. Every July 31st, Africa's Women's Day marks a very powerful moment in history, one which is rooted in the legacy of African women who were instrumental in dismantling colonialism, apartheid, and systemic inequality. It commemorates the founding of the Pan-African Women's Organization, in short, PAWO, the oldest women's organization on the continent of Africa, and also the official custodian of this day, as recognized by the African Union. PAWO was formed in 1962 during their first conference held in Dar es Salaam, Tanganyika, which we now know as the Republic of Tanzania. It was a declaration that marked the strength, the vision, and the resilience of African women in shaping a united and peaceful Africa. PAWO, now a specialized agency of the African Union, represents women across 55 member states. And their mission includes ensuring women's concerns are integrated into Africa's liberation agenda, and also promoting equal participation of women in all aspects of life, according to the African Union. Now, Africa's Women's Day is about remembering and recognizing the role of women in Pan-African unity, as well as economic development, cultural transformation, and generational healing. But we found out that many people still don't know that this day exists. So for many, July 31st is just another day which passes unnoticed. That is why in 2021, we launched this awareness initiative, not to reinvent the day, but to amplify it and its message. And I was honored to co-found this initiative alongside Joy Zen, who gave the opening introduction. And I must mention that this would not have been possible without the support of incredible African women and men who gave their time and voices to help shape it. And so their contribution will always be deeply appreciated. And in the spirit of that bold beginning, we decided not to limit this recognition to just one day. Instead, we dedicated the entire month of July as Africa's Women's Day Awareness Month. So 31 days to shine light on 31 incredible African women, aligning with the theme of each year. And of course, we recognize that millions of African women are doing remarkable things all over the world. But this format of 31 days, 31 spotlights was our way of honoring a broader spectrum of voices. So the global leader, the culture shifter, the grassroots healer, the quiet warrior. We wanted to be sure that we could at least touch all bases. And over the past 5 years, our themes have not only been enlightening and educational, but they've also uncovered stories, many which have never been heard. For instance, did you know that Africa has had over 26 female presidents and prime ministers? That was our focus for our very first edition of this awareness initiative. And we are very proud to say that this stage has hosted some of those powerful and inspirational women, from heads of states to judges, to activists, tech founders, faith leaders. We've spotlighted women in every field imaginable, with more to come. So this space has become what I'd like to call a living archive of excellence, and we're very proud of the work that we've done so far. Now, this year, under the powerful theme of Rooted in Greatness, celebrating women of African descent, we're going deeper. We're celebrating not just success, but identity, not just visibility, but legacy. And we're honoring women whose greatness is rooted in culture, in resilience, in the soil of Africa and its global diaspora. And so, to speak more on this year's theme and its global significance, I will now hand over to a woman whose work has been very instrumental to the growth of this initiative. And she is our project facilitator, Lumbi Lambo. So I would ask that Joy maybe introduces Lumbi, and then she can take over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Abigail. Very much appreciated for the work that you're doing, and they've really the backbone. And I have to say thank you as well. So I'm going to add to invite Madame Lumbi. As you have heard there, she's a lady that we have worked with the past few years. She joined us, and we're very excited. We're always excited to have people supporting us in different areas. And this part right now where we are, these stages as we are growing bigger and even wanting to reach more, we are very excited when we have more people joining us. So I'm going to introduce her here as well, because she has done a marvelous job in this area, even in her own capacity. And I have to say, salute her for the work that she does. And I'm going to add her here so that you get to see her as well. So Madame Lumbi, I call her Madame Lumbi Mlambo. She's from Zimbabwe and born, and impact entrepreneur from Generation X, dedicates herself to clean water technology. Please mark that, clean water technology, because this is like a brand on her initiative, and empowers women and girls. Inspired by her humanitarian father, Lumbi founded the nonprofit JB Dolo. I have with my tongue is heavy, focusing on clean water access through science and technology to improve health and economic opportunities for undeserved women and girls, particularly in Africa. She's also passionate about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Lumbi advocates for global change, emphasizing the transformative power of knowledge. She speaks at the UN General Assembly and serves as judge for Africa's Business Heroes Hub lead for Tony Elumilo Foundation. Everybody knows this as well. Foundation is a very, very well known, and ambassador of 10X 1000 Tech, as you can hear, for inclusion. She's also a very tech supporter as well in that area. So I want to thank you so much. And I'm going to introduce it because you're also a diaspora, and you will going to talk about why did we choose the theme Rooted in Greatness, celebrating women of Africa descent. Over to you, Madame Lumbi.
Wow, wow, wow. That's an incredible introduction, Joy. Thank you so much, and really thank you for including me and accepting me in this organization. I feel so humbled, deeply humbled, and valued and celebrated today. Obviously, we're celebrating women of African descent, and I am one of them. So I'm grateful to be here today, and I want to thank everybody for being here this morning, afternoon, or evening. So I will go ahead and talk a little bit about the theme this year. And I just want to say again, welcome everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. So today, as we gather here to celebrate the legacy, a legacy rooted in greatness, a greatness that flows from resilience and greatness that is always valued by everybody. It is creativity, strength, brilliance of women of African descent across generations and across the globe. Isn't that just beautiful? This is more than a celebration, guys. It is a recognition of deep roots, roots that have nourished cultures, led revolutions, birthed innovation, and healed nations. So women of African descent have not only shaped history, they have continued to shape the future, and often in the face of extraordinary challenges, because there are so many challenges out there in the world. So as we embark on this event today, let us honor their stories. Let us lift their voices. Let us acknowledge their impact, not just in the pages of history, right? But in our communities, in our economies, in our families, and in our dreams. This is a moment of reflection, of pride and power. This is rooted in greatness. So thank you for being here today, and may we celebrate hugely this milestone. And always remember that we matter in this society. We are valued. Yes, we are women of African descent. Thank you so much, Joey. Back to you.
Thank you so much. And we appreciate you as well, our women of color and African descent, doing amazing work in our continent. Thank you so much. I want to welcome everyone. We have a link. We're already live on, just to do a little bit of protocol here. We're already live here at Zoom, but also on YouTube. We will share the link for YouTube as well on the chat, so that you can also share with others, so that they can also join. Some people were struggling to join. And also, if we have any speaker on the if you are already on the guest list, I've already put you up here on the stage, and please use your name so that I can identify. I'm still missing one person, but we are now getting where the real topic is about, and you don't want to miss out. So for this particular topic, today we have a special moderator here with us. And if you don't know her, I don't know, where she is a power lady in the continent, and I'm very excited for her. If you can unmute yourself and put the camera on so that we can see you, and invite you to help us go through the program today. But just before I invite you, I would like also to mention the program of today is a very exciting program we shared as well. And it's going to be almost 2 hours, maximum half an hour. So be patient with us. Today's program is a very simple and very engaging as well. So I'll hand over to her now, and she was going to be introduced. She was going to take over the moderation, but let me add her here and really tell you who is Madame Emma Kawawa. I'm very excited, especially when you accepted. Normally, we host events when she is organizing, but today she is going, we moderate the other way around. And today she accepted to come on this stage and moderate with so much honor. And I was very excited, because this topic is a topic she has in her heart, and it's a big topic going on in Africa Union as well. So who is Madame Emma Kawawa? And so Madam Emma is a dynamic Tanzanian leader with over 30 years of experience driving impact across public and private sector. As the founder of and also CEO of Tanzanian Women CEOs. Could you mark that one on your chart? Tanzanian Women CEOs, a very powerful roundtable. And also the Tango Investment Limited. She champions in inclusive economic growth and sustainable leadership development of women and youth across Africa. She currently holds leadership roles in several influential organizations, including Vice Chair of Women Arise Africa, Country Director for the New Faces and New Voices, Grace Gresham Mache Trust Network, Leaders Without Borders, African Business Roundtable, and G100. The lineup is quite high level if you really can follow up this particular organization. Her advocacy spans agribusiness, mining, and innovation, with a core focus on transforming mindsets and promoting technological inclusion. Let me repeat that again. With a core focus on transforming mindsets and promoting technological inclusion. And I love the word mindset there because it's a very huge topic in the continent. A passionate gender advocate and multi-award winner, change maker. And also Emma is recognized for her unwavering dedicated to women empowerment, economic inclusion, and private sector development. Her life motto is, I love this one, lifting others as we climb. Wow, love that. And exactly that's what we're doing here today. Over to you, Madam Emma Kawawa, the moderator of the day. And we're excited what you have for us today. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Am I loud and clear? Can you hear me?
Yes, very loud and clear.
Thank you very much.
And you look beautiful.
Oh,
love your outfit.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Good evening, good day. Good day to everybody. I'm honored to be here today, speaking to the women in Africa and beyond. As we commemorate the African Women's Day, we are proudly honor the legacy, the strength, and the transformative power of the women of African descent. Rooted in greatness, African women, we have generations shaped our societies, leading with wisdom, courage, and resilience. This theme is very powerful, reminder of our deep heritage and enduring contributions to every sphere of life, economic, political, social, and cultural. As we celebrate today, let us recommit to uplifting one another, creating inclusive spaces, and ensuring that the greatness within African women continues to flourish across the continent and the world. As we have this panel, I would like to invite our first keynote speaker, who is one of our great speakers by the name of Miss Vereen, Professor Vereen Shepherd. Professor Vereen Shepherd, graduate of University of the West Indies and the University of Cambridge, Fellow of the Cambridge Commonwealth Society, and Horn Fellows, Jesus College, Cambridge, is a Professor Emeriti of Social History at the University of the West Indies. She's also Vice Chair and the immediate past chair of the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, founding and non-immediate past director of Center of Repatriation Research at the University of West Indies. Welcome, Madam Professor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
As I continue to give her profile, a Vice Chair of the Curriculum Repatriation Commission and a member of the Jamaican National Council of Repatriation, She's a publisher, an author, editor of several books, referred as journal articles. She hosted Talking History on the nationwide 90 FM in Jamaica for 12 years and has received several awards for public service and work academia. Among her publications, she is known for bringing history behind the classrooms, using media and public platforms to champion the truth, justice, and historical memory. I hand over to you, Madam Professor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Greetings, everyone, the organizers, fellow panelists and awardees, those who have joined from around the world, and all African women, whether you reside on the continent or in the African diaspora. Happy Africa's Women's Day. It is so good to be here. Now, the letter of invitation that I received and the announcement of this event started this way, and I quote, "It is with great humility that we invite you to be a panelist," and it went on. But I start similarly. "It is with great humility that I accept this honor and address you today. This honor means a lot to me because my journey to this place," you have just read a profile, and it would seem to people that I had an easy road to travel. But my journey to this space and this place has not been an easy road. And so in this regard, I share the sentiments so aptly expressed by Jamaican reggae artist Buju Banton when he sang, "I never thought I would have made it. Then afterwards they mistake it. Sure, it's not an easy road. And many see the glamour and the glitter, so them think a better rose. Me say, who feels it knows. Ooh, Lord help me sustain these blows." So I speak today as a descendant of the Tikar people from Cameroon who were taken against their will to Jamaica. And I also pay respects to my great-grandfather, Alexander Mighty, who was born into slavery in 1829. I honor the enslaved persons who worked on Hopewell Plantation in St. Mary, Jamaica, long before it became a land settlement, was renamed Africa by racists, and where I later grew up. I honor Kuba, Mimba, Sue, Delia, Wanika, Ben, Ned, James, Cyrus. I have learned that a member of a family named Hibbert got compensation on the backs of these enslaved Africans, whereas they walked out of slavery with nothing but freedom, important as freedom is. Why did people call my community Hopewell? My community of Hopewell, Africa? It was because of their stereotypical views about the infrastructural challenges of the continent. But I am glad they did, because it led me to my first history lesson, taught by my first history teacher, my strong Black Cameroonian Tikar descended mother, who explained why our village was called Africa. So thanks to her for the history I had to unlearn at the feet of my mother, and the history I learned after that. Along the way, I have met other strong women, mostly Black women, not only as teachers and nurturers, but also in the pages of the archival documents in dusty archives. So as we embark on this important day, in this vital act of recognition and celebration of women, let us think about the overall theme of the dialogue, rooted in greatness, celebrating women of African descent. And I would also say Africans. Let us engage in an act of remembrance, of remembering, of saluting those who cleared the path to our freedom, recognition, and greatness. As the late US historian Randall Robinson reminds us, memory is the active agent of collective social progress. So if we should stretch back into the past to retrieve our heroines, whose names would we choose to carry with us into the future, to inspire our actions and those of our children to achieve social progress and development? Today, I think of anti-slavery activists in Africa who objected to capture and trafficking of their people for a life of chattel enslavement in the Americas, like Ya Asante War, Queen Nzinga Fondongwa Matamba, and the Agoji of the Dahomey, renowned female warriors who were elite soldiers in a highly militarized society, of African anti-colonial, including anti-apartheid activists from before and after the Sharpeville massacre, who lobbied for independence and self-determination. From my region, I think of anti-slavery and anti-colonial women who oppose the obscenity of chattel enslavement in the case of enslaved women, and the inequities of the so-called free order in the case of women after emancipation. So, in fact, why do we celebrate the realities of the slavery past? Some people say forget slavery. But we have to look at these women because it was their dream of freedom that inspired them to continue to lobby against colonialism after emancipation. In fact, it was Frederick Douglass who said, when the true history of the anti-slavery cause shall be written, women will occupy a large space in its pages, for the cause of the slave has been peculiarly women's cause, and that was in 1845. Scholars have long questioned the existing modernist notions of society, according to which history was regarded as universal, with no gender differentiation. And so we here must sing praise songs. Firstly, from my region and all regions that experience an assault of colonialism, we sing praise songs of the indigenous women who experienced the first assaults of conquest, to maroon women like Nanny and Sally of the Jamaican Maroons, who escaped the brutality and illegality of chattel enslavement, Charlotte and Angelique of Dominica, who so ably destabilized British colonialism, Solitude of Guadeloupe, who after the Haitian Revolution and the extension of freedom to Guadeloupe and Martinique, joined in the struggle for lasting freedom in 1802, gaining for herself the designation of Heroine of Guadeloupe. Nanny Grigg of Barbados, who along with Bussa, struggled to end one of the greatest crimes against humanity in Barbados in 1816. Betta Douglas of St. Kitts Nevis, who in 1825 demonstrated the power of hunger strike while in the stocks. Filda, Queen and Abba of Antigua. Tranquila and Calypso of Dominica. Juanica, who was referred to by 18th and 19th century writers on Jamaica as a female demon, who thwarted the overseers in the field and fomented what they disrespectfully called petticoat rebellion. Cecile Fatiman and the other women of the Haitian Revolution. Susanna of the 1823 Demerara War. The women who fought with Chief Taki in Jamaica, a man from Ghana who led the fight against slavery. Sally Bassett of Bermuda, burned at the stake in 1730 because she refused to collaborate with the system of slavery, but whose statue now, however controversially, stands tall on the front lawns of the Parliament building in Bermuda. Let us recognize the emancipationist Mary Prince, for whom a plaque was erected in 2007 near the present location of the University College London, who opposed the gradualism of British abolitionist William Wilberforce and his parliamentary colleagues. Indeed, I have to say, from the US slave South to Brazil, women took the fight to the enslavers through participating in armed revolts. The 1692 Afro-Barbadian revolt, in which 51 were executed, 4 of them women. The Haitian Revolution of 1791, in which women played a critical role. The 1736 war in Antigua, led by now national hero King Court alias Taki and his Creole co-conspirator Tomboy, in which his sister Filda and other enslaved women attended the plotting meetings, and Queen and Abba played a central role in the ceremonial preparations. In the 1824 war in Demerara, the 1824 plot in Hanover, Jamaica, which featured Mary Ann Reid, and the 1831 anti-slavery war in Jamaica that has been credited with forcing Britain to end chattel enslavement. All of these women we must regard today. Many women were implicated in the war, this 1831-32 Emancipation War, and suffered for it. And as we approach Emancipation Day in my part of the world, we have to remember Sarah Jackson, Kitty Scarlett, and Priscilla, who were exiled for life, Amelia Murray and Elizabeth Samuels, who both received 100 lashes, with the latter also sentenced to 6 months in prison. We remember Jenny, Eliza Whittingham, and Jane Whittingham, who were sentenced to death by hanging. Women's activism in the cause of unambiguous freedom continued in the period after emancipation, because the so-called free order was not so free. Independence and decolonization will become the post-emancipation fight. Let us sing praise songs for Black working class women who in the post-slavery century of racial apartheid and sexism made it clear that they had no intention of conforming to the Victorian gender order and the gender systems of the new era that sought to confine women to the private sphere of uncompensated labor. Women like Mary Seacole, who defied the gender conventions of the day to show that Caribbean women could roam and hold their own in foreign lands. Women who took part in the fight for justice in the Morant Bay War of 1865. Among them, Mary Ward, Letitia Gohagan, Mary Ann Francis, and Judy Edwards, who were hanged, and Rosa Bede and Amelia Stewart, who were shot by the British suppressionist forces. And we could go on with the names, retelling the stories of women of Latin America. The point is that modern day women's movements and feminism cannot be understood without excavating and locating these prior waves of activism and theorizing on women's conditions dating back centuries. And here I think of Frederick Douglass, who said, not only did her feet run unwilling errands and her fingers do the work which in large degree supplied the sinews of war, but her deep moral convictions found convincing and pervasive expression by her pen and her voice. Finally, we must reclaim what's owed to our ancestors, to our African ancestors. While we celebrate them for what they have overcome and achieved, we must embrace the African Union's continental theme for 2025, Year of Afro-Caribbean Reparatory Justice, justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. Reclaiming what's owed African women advancing the global reparations agenda indeed aligns well with this, and we must work towards reparations for the restoration and dignity for generations to come. There are many strategies and blueprints across the continent and the diaspora, including in the UK, USA, Europe, and the GULAC region, which includes my region of CARICOM, where it's not only the CARICOM Reparations Commission that is lobbying, but we see Rastafari, civil society, a group like the Repair Campaign, and others who are saying it's time. I also need to tell you from where I sit at the UN that the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination is also now drafting a general recommendation on reparations following the shifts in the UN system. And we hope to share that globally by 2026. Based on the advocacy of civil society, academics, and members of the Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent and the Permanent Forum, we are now starting the second decade for people of African descent with reparations at its core. In the Caribbean region, we do have what might be called a strategic plan, but we do not insist that anyone follows our plan, which has recently been revised, by the way. But I will still mention that our blueprint, which has great support among many advocates, who in fact have developed similar plans specific to their region or country, is called the 10-point plan for reparations. And so, on behalf of our ancestor women, we demand a full and formal apology from colonizers, an Indigenous Peoples Development Program, repatriation and resettlement, restitution of our cultural heritage and cultural reconnection, repair of the public health crisis, capacity building and development for education, compensation for violence against women and the disruption of the family, psychological rehabilitation, the right to development through technology, debt cancellation, and monetary compensation, and in fact, the return of the compensation money given to enslavers in modern terms, in modern values. It is their right and our obligation. As Sir Ellis Clark said in 1964, an administering power is not entitled to extract for centuries all that can be got out of a colony when that has been done to relieve itself of its obligations. Justice requires that reparations be made to the country, and I would say countries, that have suffered the ravages of colonialism. The political action of these women whose names I have called should inspire us, their descendants. And yes, their actions were political because it is now accepted that politics is broader than, but inclusive of, representational politics and state actions. But what they did mean that it was political and it continues to be political. And this definition allows for the inclusion of the protest actions by those who are not, never have been, or never will be elected officials, those marginalized groups who we must use and who have been using other means of seeking change. I can imagine those women who survived the pain and agony of chattel enslavement and who experienced the onslaught of colonialism in Africa and the Caribbean. I can imagine that as they experienced emancipation, they knew, yes, we're happy, but work to be done. And so that's why we're celebrating them in many parts of the African diaspora tomorrow, August 1. And I can imagine that those who experienced emancipation and those who continue to experience oppression, those women advocates now who have risen above adversities to become leaders and exemplars. I can imagine those of the past, had they known about this, but those of us now, echoing Maya Angelou's words, out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise, we rise, bringing the gifts that our ancestors gave, where the dream and the hope of the enslaved. We rise, we rise, we rise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Shepherd. Thank you for those wise words. We have been, I don't know what to say about it. It's because I'm overexcited. I'm overexcited on what's happening. And I believe whoever listened to you today understands what you're talking about. Your keynote speech had a lot of history. And this is what we're talking about. We have roots. We have our cultures. We have our traditions, which bring us all together as African women, whether we are in Africa, where we are in Jamaica, where we are beyond the continent. We have one goal. We are the same people. And that's why we're here. Now we're going to the digital exhibitions. May I welcome Miss Abigail to take over. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Madam Kawawa, for the intro again. Professor Shepherd, thank you very much. Your words were very powerful and also grounding, and your voice brings so much clarity and conviction. So I just want to say thank you again for doing us this honor. History is so important, and I'm glad that I'm learning from this. So as we transition into the next segment, I hope we're all moving on with what's happening. I want to just pause for a moment to share a deeper sort of heartbeat behind the spotlight, why it exists and what it means to us, in addition to what Lumbi had said earlier on about our theme for the year. So each year, we select 31 African women, one for each day of the month of July, not to simply showcase their achievements or to just tell their name or say their name, but we select them because we would like to honor their legacy, affirm identity, and also just tell the truth about the contributions of African women globally, because there are so many misconceptions in our world today, as we know. And so this year's theme, Rooted in Greatness, for me felt especially poignant. It reminded us as we were going through the whole process that our greatness doesn't come from our titles or from applause. Rather, it comes from our DNA. And, you know, from our mother's laughters, from the prayers of our ancestors, the invisible thread that connects us across time and distance. And so these spotlights are as a result of research, reflection, storytelling. Our team worked, or which I spearheaded, we worked a lot to be able to come up with the nominations. We did reach out and ask for nominations, and so many people nominated. But I just want to say that we know that there's more than 31 women who are doing amazing things all over the world. We know that there are thousands of African women of descent who are equally deserving of this honor. This year's spotlight includes innovators, healers, leaders, advocates, creators, just women who are changing lives across continents. And we're very grateful that this space exists. And so I just want to say to those who were nominated but not spotlighted that we see you, you're not unseen. And for those who weren't even nominated, we celebrate you today. We honor you, because this platform is not about hierarchy or about high names, but it's about homecoming. It's about remembrance and belonging. And so we're just going to go on now to the next phase, which is the digital presentation, as we see on the screen. And as we just watch this presentation of all the women that we've spotlighted, I would like to say that we should be motivated. Let their faces remind us of possibility, and let's just celebrate them as well as ourselves together. Thank you very much. I'll hand it over to you, Joy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I believe you all saw the 31 champions for this month, for this year, and we're planning to have another one next year. So congratulations to the ones who are featured this year. As we go to the next panel, the next session, which is the panel session, I would like, this panel is across the globe. African women are rising, not only as storytellers and healers, but also as courageous truth bearers calling for justice, healing, and restoration. From the front lines of activism to the quiet, persistent labor of cultural preservations, these women carry the weight and wisdom of generations. In this timely and necessarily conversation, we explore how women of African descent on the continent and across the diaspora are helping to shape the global repatriation movement, reclaim narrative power, and build enduring bridges of solidarity. We'll also address common misconceptions around reparations with the goal of making the conversations accessible, inclusive, clear. Our hope is deepen and understanding, inspire action, and affirm to the collective dignity and legacy of African worldwide. I would like to welcome Tera Carissa Hodges, who will introduce herself.
Hello, hello. I am so happy to be here. Thank you so very much. I'm truly honored and humbled. And to introduce myself, goodness, I have no idea where to stop, start, begin, or end. But I will just say that I'm very happy to be here. And I consider myself to be extremely blessed to be a woman of African descent. I'm just so excited to be here to share my life experiences as a humanitarian, as a philanthropist, as someone who proudly gives back to the continent, because I believe that together, people from the motherland and people of the diaspora, we are stronger together. And so I'm so happy to be here to just share some of my life experience, some of my educational experience, my work experience, and receive from others as well.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Miss Esther. The second name is a bit hard. Please forgive me if I pronounce it wrong. Coxey, please correct me. You're most welcome, Esther. Please repeat your name.
Thank you. Greetings, giving thanks. It's Kosei. That's the surname. It's really great to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation. It's such an honor, and sending a big shout out to fellow panelists and of course to our hosts and moderators. So yes, I'm Esther. What do I say about myself? Well, I define myself as a reparationist, a reparations scholar activist, and as a reparationist, it's really about trying to stop the continuum of harm that we as African people have been facing for centuries as a result of chattel enslavement, colonization, and contemporary neocolonialism. But I also see reparations work as a sacred ancestral duty. And my profession is that of being a jurisconsult, which is a specialist lawyer in jurisprudence, the science and the philosophy of law. So that's an intro to me.
Thank you very much. Just remain there. Thank you very much. Just remain there. I will just start with you with the first question. The word reparations carries different meanings for different people. From a perspective, legally and socially, what does reparations mean to you?
Reparations to me means stopping the harm of what some of us refer to as the Maangamizi. And the Maangamizi is a key Swahili term. Some would say the African Holocaust, or the African Holocaust, as a famous rapper, poet, scholar, activist in the UK called Akala states. But it really speaks to the systematic destruction, exploitation, dispossession, and dehumanization of African people, both on the continent and in the diaspora. So that includes people who self-define as being of people of African descent. So reparations is about stopping the harms that began with our ancestors and continue to the present day with us. And beyond stopping the harms, it's then about restoring ourselves and trying to affirm ourselves, our dignity, our humanity, and to establish ourselves in a way that we can do without the impediments of others upon us. So it involves what some would argue is called restitution. But for me, the most important aspect of reparations is about the transformation that occurs within us as a people who are a global people, who are dispersed across the four corners of the earth. The guarantees of non-repetition that we're able to secure and effect ourselves, but obviously secure in terms of the role of other members of the human family, so that we can truly say never again will we go through, or our children or our children's children experience a Maangamizi. So it's not about, just kind of taking off the chains of whatever we consider those chains to be today. It's about ensuring that whatever we affect and secure by our own people's power changes not only ourselves, but it changes the world and our place and position in the world, so that once again we are restored to our place, our rightful place as the mothers and fathers of human civilization. So it's total repair.
Thank you very much. Should I repeat the same? Esther, if you could hear the question, the same, the word reparations carries different meanings for different people. What is your say on this? Esther, are you here?
Yeah, I've just responded.
Oh, it was Esther. Sorry, I was calling Tara.
Okay. Well, you know what? For me, reparations is very simple. It's recompense. When you look at, as a foundational Black American, and when you look at my ancestors who had to endure slavery, you understand that a lot of our ancestors' economic opportunities were stolen from them. When you look at the wealth of America, so often we think of the names like Vanderbilt and the Ford family. But when you look at how their wealth was built, it was built on the backs of African Americans who were enslaved. And so when we talk about reparations, for me, you cannot talk about reparations without talking about recompense, because recompense, especially economically, is what has given other races the opportunity to be so far advanced in their education, so far advanced in their generational wealth. When you compare the average African-American family's wealth in comparison to the European family's wealth in America, there is a great divide. And that great divide, it has contributed to poverty and the trauma that comes along with that. It contributed to people, from generations that stem from slavery. It has contributed to them not being as advanced in their educational pursuits and endeavors as other races. And it takes money to catch up. It takes money to build. It takes money to fortify yourself. And so for me, as an African American, we have been taught through our history that America made a deal with slave descendants that was called 40 acres and a mule, and we have not received that yet. But yet, when you compare that and contrast that against Asian Americans who were compensated for having to endure concentration camps, when you compare that against Native Americans who have been compensated and are still compensated through reservations today, the question exists is, why haven't African Americans been compensated? And so I would say, for me, reparations are phenomenal. Reparations are great, but there needs to be a dollar amount attached to that. And there also, I firmly believe that reparations also is a recompense by way of allowing African-American descendants to go to school absolutely free, because our ancestors were denied the right and the privilege to be educated, to learn how to read. And so I think in every space and place that Africans and African Americans have been impacted, there has to be a restitution, there has to be a recompense. I'm sorry, we can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Thank you very much, Tara. Please, Professor, do you want to add something to that?
Well, first of all, hello, Esther, good to see you again. And my fellow panelists, greetings. I don't think I can add much to what my colleagues have said, especially the powerful statement that they have both issued today. But what I would say is that I think I still need, even though our reggae artist Anthony B has said, you don't have to say you're sorry when the damage already done. I still say that those who did these dastardly acts to our ancestors must receive an apology. But an apology is not enough. An apology must be accompanied by repair, and repair in all the ways that Esther has outlined. The psychological rehabilitation that our societies need, the development programs that they need. And it's not an act of begging. I've been hearing all over Europe, oh, we're not responsible. They're just begging us and we're giving aid. Reparations is not aid. It is not a handout. It is a right. It is about justice. Reparations is about justice for people, our ancestors, and for ourselves affected by this Mangamizi. And we will not put down the struggle. Some people are saying, I'm weary, but I take inspiration from my enslaved ancestors. If they had gotten weary, we wouldn't be celebrating Emancipation Day tomorrow. So I would just like to add that.
Thank you so much, Professor Shepherd. Thank you so much. Tara, thank you. Esther as well. This is really enlightening. And I'm just putting in some key points I'm picking out in the chats as well, because again, this is why we have these sessions. It's so enlightening and we learn a lot. I'm learning a lot, and I really hope that people in the audience are also getting their questions ready if they have any, because we're going to also have a Q&A section after this. So just moving on, we just heard from Professor Shepherd. So I will come back to you, Ms. Esther. Thank you for the explanation you gave. Reparations is about the transformation that happens within us. And I'd just like to ask you about your advocacy. So you've been at the heart of international advocacy for reparatory justice. What are some major misconceptions about the global reparations movement that you believe need to be addressed?
I think some of the major misconceptions start with a reduction to reparations is just about compensation. And I say that is a reduction because compensation in a global order where we are still oppressed, where the nations that our people live in and come from are still strangulated, doesn't really feel like full repair. So that's the first thing I would say. The misconception, when even under international law, it's recognized that compensation is important, but it's only one of 5 principles or aspects of a holistic reparations approach. And the first one being, a cessation of the harms, meaning stopping the Ma'angamizi. And the one that we, as people of African ancestry and heritage, emphasize the least is the guarantees of non-repetition. But it's what the Jewish people asserted with the establishment of a state of Israel. And we can all see whatever people's views on what's going on in Israel and Palestine, and the rising recognition of Palestinian liberation, we can see what it means to establish a powerful state to guarantee the rights of the worldwide community that define themselves as belonging to that place. Of course, I'm not advocating that we replicate what's happening in Israel, Palestine, but I'm just using it to state a point. So that's a fundamental misconception. I think the other, there's two I'd like to mention. The other one is that this notion that we can just secure repair, whether we emphasize compensation or any other aspect. You know, for some people, it's about the healing and the rehabilitation or the symbolic aspects, but that we can achieve that in a state of unfreedom. And that means I'm talking about our people globally in our position, no matter what we self-define as, it's what people see when they look at us. It's how they already have an image in their mind that is delimiting, that delimits our capability and our possibility. That is the damage of the Maangamizi. And I think another misconception for me is that we can secure holistic, effective, sustainable reparations in pockets, regional pockets. So those of us in America, we have our own struggle. Those of us in the Caribbean, those of us here in Europe, those on the continent. But yet what we're claiming is based on what happened to our African ancestors. And no matter what identity we go by today, if we do genealogical research and DNA testing, we will probably find that we have much deeper origins than what we are actually claiming today. So that's the other thing. And I think the final one for me, and one of the most important, are that reparations are a right of states that we have come to settle, that we have, proclaimed independence in, but we were trafficked to those states, as opposed to what international law states, that reparations are a right of victims, meaning peoples within those states. And there is still an ongoing struggle, even within so-called newly independent states, whether it's how many decades, around how we experience citizenship. And that includes those of us who are diasporas of African and Caribbean nation states. Those are some of the misconceptions that I tackle in the advocacy work that I do as a grassroots reparations campaigner and scholar activist, seeking to unify perspectives across our various movements, because it's not to say that we don't have diversity according to our different experiences, but it's how do we harmonize those experiences so that we are not divided and misruled, and that one section of our global African family is often used to suppress other sections of our global African family, because we lack a sense of a geopolitical reality and an international legal personality. And I think our common oppressors recognize who we are and recognize our power. That is why so much resources are invested in keeping us divided, separated, confused, and misruled.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you very much for that. So one thing I'm getting from that is different perspectives, division, and as it's popularly said, a house that is divided or that's against itself cannot be together. Like a house that doesn't, stand together is divided and nothing can move forward. So thank you for clearing those misconceptions. So I'll just come to you now, Ms. Hodges. So she talked about, tracing our roots back, to our ancestors. I find that a lot of trauma is involved in topics like this, whether it's ancestral trauma, generational trauma. People are going through a lot. And so I'd just like to ask you, because this is about women, African women, women of African descent, many women are dealing with such trauma and invisibility as well. How can faith and inner empowerment equip African descended women to reclaim their voice and identity and their calling. You're muted, so we can't hear you. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Okay, great question. So I firmly believe in the power of faith. One of my titles is a licensed and ordained minister, and so I firmly believe in the power of faith. And even faith, something that millions of women out of the dark of recovery. And so you cannot negate the power of faith. I believe in God. And then also faith in self, knowing that what I've been through, knowing that no matter what you have been through, you can overcome, you can move forward. And so oftentimes women are allowed to explore the power of faith in community. So we can't forsake the assembly of ourselves, whether that is amongst other believers at church, or whether that's amongst your neighbors or whomever can continue to share and echo the message of hope back and forward to inspire you and to let you know that despite what you've been through, despite what your ancestors have been through, I mean, when you look at, again, the African-American experience in America, certainly it was the Black church that was the foundation for the civil rights movement. It was hymns that slaves would sing that would give direction, give encouragement, give empowerment. And so faith is definitely a key component when you're talking about freedom, restoration, peace, and evolving beyond trauma.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Faith is important. Faith is key when it comes to recovery. Thank you for that. And we're going to come back to you now, Professor Shepherd. Still talking about trying to get a deeper understanding about the topic of today. There's often a divide between academic discourse and community understanding. How do we bring the language of reparatory justice to everyday people, especially women and youth, without losing its depth?
Well, before I do that, permit me to just add 3 more misconceptions. I agree with Esther, but I think when I go around to European countries, what I hear is that we were not the originators of the trafficking and enslaved Africans. Go to Africa for your reparations. We hear that all the time. And we know that there are so many myths embedded in that untruth. The other one is present generations cannot make reparation for what their ancestors did. But we say, but the descendants of the original enslavers are enjoying the fruits of the original sin. So they can't get away with that argument. And then I was happy to hear Esther say that the legal, that compensation is not the only way, because from where I sit, there is one particular lawyer who is insisting that there's no such thing as reparatory justice, and that we must only say reparations, and it's a financial settlement, and that there's no others. And a lot of us disagree. We don't think you have to, yes, it's a legal concept. Yes, the lawyers are working on it hard. I'm not a lawyer, but what I can say is that there's so much justification for reparations that don't really rest squarely in the legal definition. So I just wanted to support that. And I think in terms of academia versus community, I have to say that is breaking down. I think we're already seeing people who have PhDs and MAs and people who are at universities now. We are seeing them actually acting in the way Walter Rodney, following the path of the late Walter Rodney, about how academics must also be scholar activists. And so a lot of scholar activists are around. And from where I sit, I see them every day none of my colleagues just ensconce themselves within the walls of academia. They are out there in the media. They are out there on Emancipation Day, Independence Day. They are there in Morant Bay in the square, and we will go there in October to remember Paul Bogle and the martyrs. We are going to be in Addis, some of us, talking to people, not just government, at that AU summit. We are in the schools. We have published. We have not just used our scholarship, and I'm speaking as an academic, scholar activist, and somebody with a PhD, but somebody who's a scholar activist, an advocate for social justice. And so we not only write in order to get promotions, we have to do that if we want to progress in the academy, but we also WRITE, we write to RIGHT. We write to right injustices. And so we have simple books for schools on reparations. And the most recent publication from the Center for Reparations Research is 20 questions and answers on reparation in simple language, which we are sending out widely to communities. And I have to mention my friend Kabu Madkeru, who is a host on a program called Running African, because she, years ago, 2007, in order to destabilize the British narrative about emancipation, she had a series called In Search Of. We went to every parish in Jamaica, for example, and people in other islands were doing the same thing, and countries were doing the same thing, taking the word to the people and using our artists, using our reggae artists, and there are lots of them who sing reparation lyrics. So there may have been a time when there was that divide, although I can't remember that time because I've always been in the trenches with the people. Because you heard me in my keynote talking about my background. How could I have been raised in a community called Africa and then learning why racist people equated the two places and not be curious about the plight of my people? So following Walter Rodney and other scholar activists, I've been combining both. And right now, I've taken that activism to the United Nations because that's the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination has embraced reparations. I mentioned the general recommendation that is being drafted by Ms. Gay McDougall from the USA, who is a member and an activist. So if that's ever existed, maybe some people were, that's breaking down now. That's long been broken down.
Thank you so much, Professor Shepherd. Thank you. It's so many gems are dropping right now, and I'm trying to get the few that I can. And just one I want to talk about is that we write to right injustice. That's very interesting because I know you also wrote a book about introduction to reparations for secondary schools, which is really fantastic. So again, this is what we're saying when we have conversations like this. Sometimes it sounds too difficult to understand. So the idea is if you get people to understand a lot more, then maybe we can have a lot more people being involved. And it's really interesting that all three of you have touched on the fact that reparations is not just about finance or about money or payment. It's more than that. So I just want to come back to you, Ms. Esther, to ask you about that same question. So you talked about having a full repair in the system. Now, if reparations is not just about finance or the financial aspect, what does the full spectrum of reparatory justice look like? What is the full view of what does it entail aside from finance? What else can we to make everything clear to people? Yeah.
Okay, to put it simply, I would say that the most important aspect of reparations for me is the guarantees of non-repetition. Now, can we imagine, okay, we've got the continent of Africa that is currently maintaining or preserving largely the borders that were instituted after the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885. So a true repair would have Africa restore herself, including those on the continent, but those of Africa in the diaspora who are denied citizenship, denied our right to belong, denied our right to have a say and shape the direction of our mother continent. Our lives as African people or people of African descent cannot matter when our mother continent is being recolonized as we speak. So for me, Africa, holistic reparations would look like structural repair. So I've spoken about ending the Maangamizi. It would be system change, but can we imagine an Africa that doesn't preserve those borders of separation? So all those civil wars and conflicts that have been fueled by separating indigenous African ethnicity and nationality from one another, that we have been disconnected from, many of us in the diaspora, because we don't know and we are not connected to the homelands that we left. If we had one Africa that recognized her diaspora, that operated as a global unit, and we recognized our right. So whether we lived on the continent of Africa or not, in the diaspora, wherever we choose to be, we should be able to have a say. And it shouldn't be corporations and private military contractors and AFRICOM that is there, trying to reestablish itself across and more tentacles across the continent, where they continue to pillage. That's why the Maangamizi is really fueled by wars of conquest and dispossession that are continuing to impact us today. So whether it's me living in Britain, someone living in the United States of America, someone living in the Caribbean, our lives continue to be impacted because of what's happening in Africa. But we are not connected to it because we are not seeing ourselves as of that continent. We know historically, and we talk about being of African descent, but we are not seeing our future connected to the liberation and this of Africa. And this is what the early fathers and mothers of African independence knew. Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah said that the independence of Ghana was meaningless unless connected to the total liberation of Africa. And he also meant within that the African diaspora. So that would be the first thing, having a goal so that we recognize that even wherever we've made homes, that we are still stateless because we have been denied access to our African statehood. Okay, and other people have now usurped our identities and are claiming Africanness and are usurping the resources that are being extracted to keep people of the global north and other powers in a state of opulence. Okay, whilst we are experiencing greater and greater dispossession, our people are literally dying to cross the Mediterranean, dying, and then they are met with Fortress America, Fortress Europe. So that is why, for me, that stopping of the harms of the Maangamizi today are important. And then, of course, all the other measures that we can think about, every aspect of repair that's already been mentioned fits within that. But unless we reconstruct the world, African reparations, for me, will bring about a reconstruction of the world. And we have to move from being considered the last to being back to being the first, so we can get our planet in order. Because we talk about the repair, we talk about even the compensation in a planet where we're experiencing global climate and ecological crisis, where even in the Caribbean, we know that some of those lands are in danger of going underwater because of global warming that is being produced and manufactured by extractivist policies. So we have to join the dots here and recognize that we don't have the luxury of time of fighting all these kind of separate struggles. They are one. We may be at different ends of the spectrum. We may take on different aspects of what that struggle is, but it is ultimately one. So a repaired Africa that some of us refer to as Ma'atu Buntu Man. So it's not just uniting the colonial borders of 1884, 1885 that separate us and therefore deny us power even in our own motherland, where in many African countries, we don't even know what resources are being extracted by transnational corporations, and governments are powerless to even enforce their rights to stop it in the international arena. It looks like fair trade, okay, which requires a total restructuring of the global political, economic, financial system. It includes all of that. And of course, it includes us remembering our connections to each other, which is our real power. Seeing our connections, knowing that these current identities that we have are only part of our story. They're not the whole of it. And as Professor Chinweizu, the great Nigerian public intellectual, states, that when we restore that to ourselves, we will be fully restored. When we recognize that remembrance, that connection between us that they have tried to sever, and many of us continue today, that we will then regain everything that has been stolen, that continues to be taken from us, because we will have the power and we will be able to flex our global power through all kinds of ways in order to avert any future attempts to re-enslave us and our children and our children's children.
Thank you so much. Thank you. The full repair is something that needs to really take shape on the continent. And I really hope that this is why we have these conversations. I really hope that it gets to the right places. And I'm so happy that Professor Shepherd had mentioned about, had talked about what she's doing at the United Nations, and we'll get to that shortly. But before I come to that, I just want to talk to you again, Ms. Hodges. Life is spiritual. So you've talked about how it's important not to negate faith in when we talk about trauma and recovery from trauma. Now, I just want to ask you about the spiritual dimensions of reparations. So as someone who empowers others to work in purpose, how do you view the emotional and spiritual dimensions of reparations? What role do personal healing and legacy play in the collective pursuit of justice?
What a great question. So obviously there is an emotional and a spiritual aspect to reparations, but what I firmly believe in as a woman of faith is a Bible verse that says, money answereth all things. I have not heard any idea on this panel today that can be executed without finances. So at the end of the day, when you talk about what needs to be done, it is going to require money. That is, for me, why reparations includes recompense. When you talk about people going to therapy, therapy is not free. When you talk about people healing, healing is not free. And so again, for me, it's always going to go back not just to spiritual, but to practical. You have to ask yourself, if money wasn't important, why were resources stolen? If money wasn't important, why is it that every time a country on the continent of Africa, or even African Americans historically, try to improve themselves financially, they're consistently under attack? There is power in finance, there's power in money. And that's why, again, for me, I cannot stress this enough. All of the ideas that I've presented today are amazing. None of them are funded just by air. They have to be funded by financial resources. And so when you talk about the emotional side of it, yes, you do need emotional repair, but I would liken it to women that I have worked with who were escaping domestic violence situations. It took more than prayer. It took more than talking to them about, how you can overcome things mentally. There had to be some type of compensation there to guide them to safer waters, to guide them to the space and place where they felt like, well, I have a roof over my head, so I don't have to return to a domestic violence situation just to know where I'm going to lay my head. So for me, the spiritual and emotional, it's necessary. It's a component, but it's not the foundational component.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So I'm getting it's really interesting because reparations is not all about finances, but finance is still important because, you know, in the whole aspect of healing, we require that. Okay, and I see there are questions in the chat as well. We're going to have a Q&A segment. We'll soon wrap up the panel. It's been quite interesting. But now we're going to look at the higher level, so leadership, and I'll just come to you, Professor Shepherd. So you were the former chair of the United Nations Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent, and you've helped shape global human rights dialogue. In your view, how do you think that international institutions need to shift and not just structurally, but ethically, to take reparations seriously?
Right. Yes, thank you. Before I do that, though, since you mentioned how we're going to schools and making sure they have material, I'd just like to show you this one. Oh, it's okay, 20 questions and answers. And the one you mentioned, which is the one for schools, introduction. Yes. So I think people can go on Amazon. And as we reflect on how we can unite the continents, you know, the Africa, have one Africa, whether it's diaspora. I talk to people all the time who say, I would love to go to Africa, the continent, because I am African. But the visa imperialism is daunting. And so I think we have to think about that seriously. But at the same time, I say to them, but it's very hard to get a visa to the United States and to the UK and to the EU. So everybody's lining up at those embassies to get visas. So do what you have to do. Most African countries don't have the application online. So do what you have to do if you're really committed to having that unity and seeking out your heritage. Okay, so I have to tell you that I did not intentionally set out to be on any international stage. I was quite happy at the University of the West Indies, teaching students, guiding them, changing curriculum, and so on. But unfortunately, the Vice Chancellor, the late Professor Rex Etelford, died, and he was a member of the Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent. So when he passed, I was asked as a historian, as he was in a sense a cultural historian, to be CARICOM's member to the working group. So that is really what started me out in that international space, and I've continued. And I know that the UN has come under so much attack. There are people who don't like what we do. They think we're not doing anything anyway. But I have to say that wherever we find ourselves as African people, we try to make a difference. So with all that's going around about the UN, I just focus on the shifts that have already taken place, that I have seen as somebody who is there now on CERD, the transition from the working group to CERD. Because remember that the working group was an outcome of the Durban conference. So 2002, it was established. And one of the first things it did was to lobby for the International Decade for People of African Descent. And I happened to have been chair when we drafted the program of activities for the first International Decade for People of African Descent, and even talked about a permanent forum for people of African descent, which is now a reality. So I think what we have to do when we find ourselves and after 2 terms on the working group, one of my colleagues said, why not, go to CERD? But the working group did amazing work, I have to say. And now we see the second International Decade for People of African Descent become a reality. I don't think that everything about the Durban Declaration Program of Activity satisfied African people, because for example, I'm not sure they came out unambiguously to say that Chatelain's statement was a crime against humanity. It's about the politics of should. So, but we have used the DDPA, and now at the international level of the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, I've been a member since 2016. You have to be voted on. You can't just say, I want to be on CERD or any treaty body. It's the oldest treaty body, 60 years this year. And we're asking member states to actually do something to mark the achievements over the 60 years. So there's been a shift. We know that reparations has been on the table for a very long time, before 2002, before the working group. But that's one of the things that we embrace, because we know about Chief Abiola, we know about the Pan-African Conference, we know about Bernie Grant, Dudley Thompson, all these people before us. We know about Rastafari. And I even say the struggles of our ancestors, they may have not used that R word, but that's what they wanted, justice for trauma and pain, what they were enduring. So at the UN now, we have seen a shift since 2001, I believe, and I think Durban had a large part to play. We have seen statements from high-level officials, but at the level of the committee that I am on now, when I joined in 2016, I couldn't get any colleague to support the idea of reparations. Now the membership has shifted. There are 12 people of African descent and Africans on the 18-member committee. The dialogue has shifted. And so what we're seeing now is that because reparations has become a global conversation, we're now in a position to elaborate a general recommendation on reparations. But that committee has also done other things, because when we have interactive dialogue with states parties, we push them on the issue of reparations. Those who have never thought about it, those who have committees, commissions, but we raise the issue. But that committee, I think, is a committee that is really quite relevant regardless of what people think, because racial discrimination, a lot of what we are going through as African people can be traced to racial discrimination. The profiling at borders, all the harms that continue stems from a belief that Black people have fewer rights than other people. So I think that from where I sit now, I see the shift. I see the advances that we have made. And when we have the launch of the general recommendation, a lot of people who are on this call, a lot of our grassroots people, activists, who always come to us at CERD anyway, to push us to do more. Maroons, indigenous peoples. So I think that we're seeing, I'm not the only one. There are many of us now at international level who are using our position to ensure that we either initiate changes if we can, or push those who can to do so. And I think it's an exciting time now on the committee. The only obstacle is that what they are calling the liquidity crisis is going to affect our work. We have an article in the convention that speaks to interstate complaints. That's one of the things I think that we did really well, because Palestine came to us as a state complaining about Israel. And the report that we came out with is online, and people can see that. We're not saying it's going to end what's going on there now, but we're saying that we are conscious in our work of what's happening to people of African descent, marginalized peoples around the world, and we take action. How the impact is, we can't always be the ones to know, but we get reports from our communities around the world, those member states, the 182 member states, people from those member states, in terms of what the impact of our work is. So that's what I can say.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much, Professor Shepherd. So we're going to bring the panel to a wrap because I see we have a lot of questions, and I also want to give time for the Q&A. So Miss Esther had talked about how it's important for some sort of change to happen on the continent, for more inclusivity of those in diaspora. And so we know that some countries in Africa, for instance, Ghana, are now, carrying out like ceremonies for people of African descent. Some are coming back, they're giving them citizenship. I read recently that a popular musician, Ciara, has just been granted citizenship at Benin Republic, because people are now tracing their ancestry back to the continent, which is a really interesting thing. So one question to all of you, our esteemed guest speakers, which I will just use to wrap up this panel, and I will start with you, Ms. Esther, then we'll go to you, Ms. Hodges, and finally, Professor Shepherd. So the question is, in solidarity of intercontinental unity, what do you think how do you think that we can bridge the gap? Going back to what you said, Ms. Esther, how do you, aside from, is it just all about, granting citizenship or just, having the homecoming ceremony? How do you think that continent, so the Caribbean, the American continent, everywhere that people of African descent are, how do you think that we can bridge the gap, bring, just to close that gap and ensure that there is unity for all of us? So I'll start with you, Ms. Esther.
I think it starts with dialogue between us and amongst us, and to approach that dialogue with humility, because we know our story, we know our journey, whoever the we is, and however we define ourselves and our group, our people. But we don't know the story necessarily of those that remained and those that are scattered across the earth that are connected to us. So we're already in that process. It's not like it's not happening. Reparations is ultimately about process. It's not just about the end goals or whatever big picture or small picture, be it, or how much compensation people are seeking. It is about the way that we get there, the process, that is the connections, the facilitation of dialogues between us, organizing where we can hear our stories and hear the story of those that we don't know so well and that we've been misinformed about because we've been told lies or we've been told distorted truths about what happened to us. That's where it begins. And as I said, that's already happening. But beyond that, we need to organize. We need to organize. And for me, as somebody who is located in an international social movement for African reparations, that organizing is 24/7 work, It is constant round the clock. We are constantly reaching out to our people across the world, exchanging experiences, exchanging strategies and tactics. But of course, ultimately, and we're seeing some progress even at the level of states, and I do recognize the African Union year, but also the decade of justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations. But it's what we do within these decades, how we use them to better refine our arguments, to actually ensure that whatever tensions and differences we may have, that we can find ways of meeting, at a point of common ground. So as I said, and I'm very concerned, it's a real concern about the geopolitical dimensions of reparations and the way in which nation states or certain people groupings within nation states are always seen as more palatable to imperial states like US empire, like Empire of Britain 2.0, especially after Brexit, whereby they are constantly undermining the efforts. And I just wanted to clarify, when I talk about compensation, I do locate that within the framework of stopping the Ma'angamizi, but I want to draw us to what we're seeing happening in the Alliance of Sahel States, where they have kicked out their colonizers, okay, their European colonizers. They are asserting their sovereignty over the resources, so they're not being extracted, and those resources are being redeployed to the development of the people. That is money that corporations would be extracting so that we can have certain standards in the global north. And this is the danger when we have pockets of struggles and we don't connect with each other. The other thing I want us to really think about is that reparations, on some level, if it's fully going to be realized, even in terms of the material and the financial aspects, it's going to involve some warfare. And warfare happens on many different levels, not just the physical direct war, but with the AI and all of the technological advancements. They don't even have to be near us. Literally, we can be assassinated and eliminated with drones and all kinds of stuff. And I think that it'll be foolhardy of us to think that empires are just going to capitulate to our demands without going and doing what empires do to get resources, which is start wars, okay? And they go and wage war on nations that they consider to be less powerful, okay? Because that's how international politics work. And I think we can learn a lot from the struggle that's going on to even recognize a Palestinian state, and how even those who are seeking to assert that there's a genocide in Gaza are being demonized, across university campuses. People in their jobs are being penalized for daring to speak out against particular regimes. Do we think as African people, we're literally, our resources are feeding the whole world? Do we think that somehow the nations that have grown fat on us are just going to sit by and give us resources? Where do they get those resources from? If we know about how economics works, how the international financial system works, we know a lot of the lifestyle that we enjoy in the global north, the so-called West, comes at the expense of our people in the global south. So the question is, what side of history or our people's story do we want to be on? Do we want to be those of the few that were in the master's house and that were able to eat good from the table? Or do we want to be where the majority of our people are at? And if we look at how even the attempts in the Alliance of Sahel States have been met with condemnation from some of the imperial powers who don't want that example of African self-determination. And reparations, compensation requires the liberation and the self-determination, because it's not just about getting the resources, it's about ensuring that we're not penalized, as happened with land reform in Zimbabwe and Southern Africa, when African people decide we're taking back our land and we're going to go and sit on those lands. Those nations got penalized in the international arena. And that's what we need to be mindful of. So we need to join the dots. We need to have whole system thinking wherever we're at on that spectrum in order to work this thing out. So yeah, those are the comments that I felt, were on my heart and mind to say. I don't know if I've answered the question or not, but yeah.
Very, very passionately. Thank you so much. So I'll go on to you now, Miss Hodges.
Girlfriend, I don't even know what your question was, but I'll get some thoughts off my mind.
I was just asking
let me
about,
say this.
yeah, okay.
Again,
Okay.
I've said it from the beginning of this conversation, and I'm standing firm on it. For me, reparations is about recompense, and it can be done strategically. I agree that, you can't just run up on any government and say, hey, give me some money. But again, when we have the framework of how Native Americans have been financially compensated, Asian Americans have been financially compensated, even members of the white nation have been financially compensated, the framework for reparations via recompense is there. One of the things I highly recommend that unfortunately and fortunately has been proven to be quite effective in the U.S. government is lobbying. Whenever corporations want a particular law passed or a particular law not passed, they simply lobby our elected officials, right? Different that has been proven to be a very effective measure. And so when we speak about Black America or any nation, definitely petitioning your government in a strong and effective and strategic way has proven to be a tool that can get you the benefits that you're looking for. The second thing that I want to say is, again, I count it a privilege to sit amongst such a distinguished panel. It really warms my heart. But I would like to say that even though I am a foundational Black American, obviously, our roots trace back to the continent of Africa, period. That's where, foundational Blacks, our ancestors, come from. I'm not sure how aware you guys are, but tomorrow, August 1st, it's trending all over social media. Unfortunately, and this is going to go to my point that I will end on, unfortunately, foundational Black Americans are prepping to boycott all African businesses. So any business that is not owned by foundational Black American, from braid shops to restaurants to clothing, you name it, foundational Black Americans are prepping to boycott. I understand it, but I don't respect it. I understand it because when I listen to why so many foundational Black Americans feel offended and upset with businesses or representatives or our fellow brothers and sisters from the motherland who live here in America, I certainly understand the frustration. But what I don't respect, and for me, this is the greater point, is I don't respect any division amongst people that look like us, because division is how we've ended up in the situation and the circumstance that we're in right now. Instead, I would like to see a conversation from representatives between foundational Black Americans and, our brothers and sisters from the motherland to resolve our differences, because together we are stronger. And so before we talk about, fighting for reparations and getting people to look at us differently, we first have to unite, because at the end of the day, when I am in Europe, people don't look at me as a Black woman from America. They don't know I'm from America until I open my mouth. They see me as a Black woman. And so I believe that would be true for just about everybody on this panel. And so with that being said, is that unity starts at home first. And so I would like to see us just kind of heal what's going on throughout the diaspora amongst ourselves first. And then from there, I believe that we can truly become a force to be that we can see unity, progress, success around the globe together. I hope that I've answered your question.
It does. There shouldn't be division amongst those who look like us. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Absolutely not.
Thank
And
you.
I apologize. My internet is going in and out. So if it goes out again, my apologies. I've enjoyed the panel and I salute everybody represented. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so we're going to end with you, Professor Shepherd, on the same question.
Okay, and I can't remember the question either. But I think there are some things that I need to say before I go. But I seem to think that your question had something to do with uniting Africans. I don't know. Can you repeat the question then, so that I don't go traipsing off?
Sure. Yes, sure. So in the spirit of intercontinental solidarity, how can the Caribbean, America, and the continent strengthen their ties around reparatory justice? Yeah.
Right. I think one of the first things we have to do as advocates is to encourage our people to engage in knowledge production and embrace knowledge about each other before we are going to travel. I say knowledge before travel, because if we are going to work together, we need to know about each other. And I think, therefore, that one of my struggles on this side in Jamaica and the Caribbean, and when I talk to people in the UK too, I remember this commission report that came out a couple of years ago. History is not a foundational subject. History is not mandatory. And we have been busy trying to change or infuse in the syllabus topics about where we are from, about Africa. And so we're also trying to change, they always say change hearts and minds. The stereotypes that our colonizers left in our spaces about Africa, those stereotypes are not empowering. And therefore, I say, before people say, well, I'm going to Africa, I'm going to look for my ancestors, where I'm pushing knowledge about the continent. For example, I encourage everyone to know about what colonialism was like and the myths that the Europeans are selling about the transatlantic trafficking in enslaved Africans. I encourage people to change their language in which they speak about our ancestors. I don't like slaves. I think we have banned that already. I don't like slave trade. I don't know why we won't call it trafficking. I know that we encapsulate a lot of the harm in the word Mangamizi, but sometimes we have to break it down for people. I think people have to go and look at the 1661 code that the British initiated in Barbados, and that was later applied to the rest of the places, to see how they dehumanized our ancestors, how they tried to render them non-persons, and yet they raped our women and men.
Mm-hmm.
Did they rape them as objects? Maybe as objects without sympathy. I want us to look at the ways in which attempts were made to erase our cultures. That's why we don't know so much. We don't know the languages of Africa. I want us to think about and read about the antinatalist policies until 1807, the disruption of the family, the inhumane treatment to those who resisted. In our various musea, we see instruments of torture, the branding iron. I think the branding iron was the most horrendous example of people's inhumanity to other people. I want us to remember this song, the way people were thrown overboard for profit. If we don't know about our history, we're going to go to Africa and stand up, and we're going to call Cape Coast a castle. It was a barracoon, it was a prison. So was Elmina. So if we go there without knowledge, we're not going to, it's not only about using DNA to trace your roots. I would love to go to Cameroon. I haven't reached there yet. The DNA on my mother's side points to the Tikar people of Cameroon. I would like to go there one day. I've been to many other parts of Africa. But I am pushing that. Know about each other before we visit each other's places, and try as advocates to change the curricula in our schools and insist that political independence has to be accompanied by self-knowledge and a reclamation for heritage. Because otherwise we'll be wandering about the place, both over here and on the other side, rootless. Final thing I want to say is this. We have to try, as I think as Sister Esther said, to heal the harm that has been done to our souls, to our dignity. Every time, and it's, in fact, I feel actually better in Africa, in countries in Africa, than I do in Europe. Every time I go to the UK, every time I land at Gatwick and go through immigration, I am reminded about how we are seen as Black people on this side of the world, how Jamaican people are seen. I'm fingerprinted like a criminal. Even the former Prime Minister, P.J. Patterson, I saw him in the queue on my last trip to the UK. He was fingerprinted, a former statesman. And we all had in that, because of the UN and whatever it is, we have diplomatic passports. They don't care. They don't care. You Black people from Jamaica can't be diplomats. What are you talking about? You must be fingerprinted like a common criminal. And King Charles III is the head of state of Jamaica. And when we pass through borders, they only see the skin shade first. If I take off this gele, you will see what my hair is really like. They think I am carrying things in my hair because it's not straightened. I don't wear a straight hairstyle. The thing goes through my hair. And I'm going to a UN meeting and I show them my UN ID. It means nothing. It's your skin color. So we have to unite as African people to reclaim our dignity because it's under threat. And I'm saying solidarity is a must, but knowledge is also power. And we have to have a global sense of activism if we are going to raise up ourselves and our people out of this misery and be clear that we're seeing the legacies of chattel enslavement today. Climate change is a buzzword. Who knows that it was plantation construction and the deforestation that started in the 17th century that has continued the situation. So before I get too deeper into these emotional issues, let me stop and just thank everybody for listening to me, for having me. And thank you so much for the knowledge I've gained from fellow panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Shepherd. Thank you, Ms. Esther. Thank you, Ms. Hodges. It's been such an enlightening panel. I have so many things I want to type, but I can't even type everything. But I hope that the little that I've been able to write out, that we're following, and everyone is getting more and more enlightened. So I'm just going to hand over now to Lumbi, who will be taking the Q&A session, because I know we have a lot of questions. So thank you again to our dear panelists. This has been fantastic. I'm full with a lot of knowledge. Thank you so much. So over to you, Lumbi.
Wow, 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 wow. You panelists were a powerhouse today. And I just want to thank you for that, because we learned a lot today. And I'm sure a lot of people are still here because they learned a lot. We just loved you so much. And we also have questions, from the audience. Some are pretty much, as I ask the question, you'll be able to tell who that is directed to. Let's start with question number 1 on faith. This one is from Jendai. Let me just say, first of all, before I ask this question, Jendai, you win the gold medal today. You're the only one who asked questions, unless I didn't see the other questions, but you win the gold medal. Absolutely phenomenal. There's some great questions from Jendai. Faith without works is death. So what should be our strategy as an African diaspora worldwide and with our family in Mama Africa? I'll send that to you, Tara Hodges, to answer.
Okay, faith without works is dead. What should be our strategy? And I'm sorry, it went out for me.
What should be our strategy as an African diaspora worldwide and with our family in Mamaland, Africa?
We have got to start genuine conversations between people of the diaspora, people from the motherland. I was just telling my friend a few days ago, I'm not sure why, but I do understand, but why go on luxury vacations? We always go to Europe. And so my commitment moving forward is, oftentimes I have to go to Europe for work, but my commitment moving forward is to take dollars to Caribbean islands and throughout the continent of Africa, because I think that there's so much disinformation between the two, and the disinformation is there because we don't see each other. We don't know each other. We don't experience each other. And so for starters, let's try to connect with each other as possible. And listen, I know everybody can't afford to jump on a plane and fly to a different country. That's fine. But you know what? We can gatekeep what we choose to watch on TV, and we can gatekeep what we choose to watch on YouTube. I understand that, the image that maybe we were shown as African Americans of the continent of Africa, it was one-sided. It wasn't the totality of what the continent represents. But in the age of information, we're at the tip of my fingers, I can go to Google, I can go to YouTube, and I can put in Lagos, Nigeria, and videos come up. It is at my discretion which videos I feel I choose to gravitate to. So I think the more we learn about each other, the more that we connect, the more that we see each other, the more that we humanize each other. For me, that is how we can begin to learn from each other, learn more about each other, trust each other, begin to build, strategize, and unite as one.
That's powerful. I hope that that answers your question, Jendai. But it's a good question. And thank you for that. Thank you for the answer. Let's go to the next question. Where is the leadership in the movement? Is it the grassroots or governments or academics or academic institutions? Is the divide narrowing but not top down in the approach? Who can answer this question?
First of all, let me apologize. I had a power cut, so I
No
chipped
problem.
out for a while. Yes, it's a good question. I think in my country, it started out as a grassroots movement. Later on, governments intervened and tried to structure it by establishing committees. And there's a national committee or commission or council on reparations in every CARICOM country. But what I've noticed that the chairs of those committees trying to do is to ensure that the membership on the national committee or commission or council consists of a broad range of people. So if I can speak to the Jamaica National Council on Reparation, chaired by Mrs. Lalita Davis Mattis, who's a lawyer, it consists of Rastafari, community activists, youth, academics, legal people like Mr. Bert Samuels. So it's a wide range of people, but we also have media partners like in IRFM because they are grassroots station. So, but we also encourage everyone around the country to establish its own in every parish, even the schools. We have been to schools to help to guide them when they have questions about reparation because they want to set up their own groups at schools. So the effort is broad-based. But the criticisms are still there that it needs to be more broad-based, community grounded and grassroots grounded. But I think the national committees do try. But the criticism, to be fair, the criticism is still there. And the minute you have gone to school at a higher level, you're targeted by people, even those who also are or have become, they've graduated from grassroots to university. But you still get the attacks that it's a top-down movement. But I've seen the changes over the years. And we really honor the Rastafari and the community activists with whom we work.
Thank you for that answer, Professor Vereen. That's really thoughtful. And I hope that, Jendai, that satisfies your question. I'm hoping so. It was a good answer. So let's go to the next question. So the next one says, even securing compensation will be a process and will not be granted to a weak or powerless, disorganized people. So how are the panelists contributing to organizing and educating our grassroots? Secondly, governments in what has become a reparation industry, should we trust them?
I'll start responding to this one, although it's for all of us.
Yeah.
So we're being asked about our own contributions to organizing and educating grassroots communities. So most of my work starts from the grassroots, and it's about helping to encourage, educate, stimulate, and amplify the voices of those communities. And I locate myself within the grassroots as well. And one of the things that I'm involved in is creating what we would call communocratic, or some people would say democratic structures and processes, whereby ordinary people can realize their rights to participate in reparations processes and to shape them and develop them in their own interests and according to their own aspirations. And we have had a degree of success as the Stop the Maangamizi campaign by lobbying as well. So we take the perspectives and also the power base from our communities. No one would listen to us if we don't have a power base. So we lobby elected officials because obviously we're not in parliament. We lobby elected officials, and our work has led to the setting up of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for African Reparations as the Stop the Maangamizi campaign. That was preceded by passing of reparations and atonement motions by Bristol City Council and two London councils, Lambeth and Islington. And in these motions, they are important grassroots mobilizing vehicles. But what they also do is enable elected officials and people working at the local level across, civil society, across institutions to take action on reparations and to be supported to do so. I'm also involved in a lot of knowledge production work as a movement scholar activist, a reparations movement scholar activist. And in that regard, have co-founded the International Network of Scholars and Activists for African Reparations through my involvement in PARCO, the Pan-African Reparations Coalition in Europe, whereby our grassroots knowledge on reparations is in dialogue with academics who work in universities. And our perspectives of reparations and in particular, our work has led to research that is being conducted not only in Europe and across the diaspora in the Caribbean and also in North America, but also on the continent of Africa, to looking at African conceptualizations of repair. And I bring in here this idea of cognitive justice because we're speaking English, but we're often using terminologies and frameworks that our ancestors would not necessarily recognize. And part of what happened in terms of the damage of colonization and enslavement was epistemicide, the killing of our knowledge systems, our ways of relating to land, to earth, to each other, ancestors, and so forth, because we were literally denationalized. And that was part of genocide, but also ethnocide, whereby we remain as a people, but our cultures have been largely, I wouldn't say destroyed, but much has been destroyed, including those of us who don't have access to our mother tongue, unless we choose to learn a different African language. So all of these frameworks are coming from the grassroots, but we've been able to influence academics who get the research funding to be able to engage in research in a relationship of equity, recognizing that we at the grassroots are also knowledge producers too. And so that's what I've been involved in doing. So educating, but also learning from their experiences and amplifying their voices in spaces where maybe they don't want to go. So my work crosses, I work with many people in universities. I'm involved with universities' reviews on reparative justice. So such as the University of Edinburgh, acting as one of their community consultants on reparations. And they've been in the news recently around their own reparative justice program. And also, as I said, lobbying at the level of Parliament, because we have a demand as grassroots communities that our voices must be heard, because unfortunately, even though some of us have Caribbean heritage or even citizenship like myself, Caribbean states don't represent us. And we're working with people in the Caribbean who also feel the same way. And so we are calling for implementation of one of the most important rights under international law, the right to participate and to have a say. And so that's why we're calling for an all-party parliamentary commission of inquiry for truth and reparatory justice. And we are advocating that as a pan-European strategy, not just for the UK. And this wouldn't be just about us in Britain, because one thing that it's important for me to highlight, in Britain, partly because of British Empire and partly because we are so small in number, you know, we make up less than 5% of the overall population. So when we champion reparations, it's not for us as Black people or people of African descent in Britain. Our roots come from elsewhere, whether it's the Caribbean, whether it's across the diaspora, the wider Americas or Abya, or directly the continent. And so our perspectives and approaches to reparations are very inclusive of the global African family, although we are located tactically and strategically in Europe. And so those are the voices that we're bringing to bear in terms of our power base, because we believe our power is rooted in our people and being able to organize them and harmonize their voices so that whatever differences amongst us, we can still form a united front to hold to account our historical and contemporary oppressors. So that's just some of the work that I've been involved in doing. Can we trust governments? Ultimately, I believe that government should be accountable to the people. But if the people are not organized, if we are also not taking ourselves seriously, if we are not taking seriously the importance of education being part of that preparation that we need to effect and secure reparations, and the knowledge production that goes with it, knowledge of self, but also knowledge of others in the African family, and also knowledge of those who are seeking to hold on to our stolen wealth and our stolen legacy. So that is important for any organizing processes, ultimately. And I feel that government should be responsive to their populations and what their people are advocating. But if that also needs resourcing, and yes, that does take some monetary investment, but it also includes utilizing state structures to make sure the people are educated. Many countries still in our parts of the world don't have history as a compulsory topic. And that is a huge indictment on us, because that's not what about others have done to us. It's about what we are maintaining in our own name, even though we claim to be independent, but we're not yet sovereign.
Well, thank you for that answer, Esther.
Yeah. Okay.
It's remarkable.
Okay.
I'll give it to you,
Yes.
Professor Vereen, so you can
Yes.
finish up.
Okay.
So we can,
The same question. Okay.
yes.
So the thing is, I don't box myself into any label. I operate in multiple spaces, and I do what's necessary in the space that I happen to be at any one time. So, as you know, I grew up in a small village called Africa. And when I asked my mother why, she told me. So she was my first historian. So if I should label myself, which I don't really want to do, I would say I'm a historian. I'm a historian. I've always been a historian. I've been a history student and I've been a historian. And I embrace the philosophy that history prepares us for activism, that history is a way of ordering knowledge. And I think Lamming was talking about Walter Rodney, when George Lamming, when he said this, that history is a way of ordering knowledge, which could become an active part of the consciousness of the uncertified, not the uneducated mass of ordinary people, and could be used by all as an instrument of social change. And I've seen where even at the University of the West Indies, many people have followed Walter Rodney, and I think Edward Said and Elsa Gavaya, and their philosophy about what somebody who has been to university and who has benefited from education, what is the responsibility of that person? And I use those signposts along the way. And many of us, in fact, at the University of the West Indies have embraced this kind of revolutionary public stroke, revolutionary intellectual. Because we are from the working class, and therefore we know that we couldn't place ourselves in a position to bring change to the society if we didn't try to rise in education ourselves and be at a place where people would listen to us. So, but I go where I'm needed. If I'm needed to give a lecture in a university, I go there. If I'm called by a school, I go there. If I'm called by a community, I go there. If a treaty body wants my service or any other UN mechanisms, I am there. So I have equipped myself over the years to be in spaces where I am needed, using my position as a historian. And so I write, and you heard me say I write to write, because that is a passion. And my inspiration has come from Walter Rodney, from Kamau Brathwaite, from Elsa Gavile, Lucille Mathurin Mayer, and my ancestor women like Wanika, who they claim provoked petticoat rebellion, you know? So I do what I need to do for the cause, and I don't limit myself to any label. So that's how I would put it.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, for this powerful session. And thank you for answering the questions that we had from this one panelist, not panelist, but attendee, Jendai. Thank you so much for asking those questions. Like I said before, you win a gold medal because you're the only one who asks questions here. So at this time, I want to bring another very powerful speaker whom I really admire a lot for what she does, just to comment on this whole thing so that you guys can meet her as well and you can all connect afterwards. Then after that, I'll bring back Emma Kawawa so that she can bring us to the closing of the entire event. So Dr. Shirley Clarke, please unmute yourself and also turn on your camera. Dr. Shirley Clarke?
Okay, I think I'm here. Am I here?
I
Can
see
you
you.
see? Okay,
Can you bring
hello.
her on stage? Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Wow, wow, wow. This has been rich. And I was sitting here, and first of all, I honor all these distinguished guests. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Thank you all so much for the opportunity that you afforded to me to be honored. Listen, I was sitting here saying the whole while that I got some trance sisters, folks that I can fight with. And, listening to all of these incredible ladies, the founders and all the co-hosts, and then hearing when Professor started, and it was like, oh, this is amazing. And thank you to know that people care at this level. The Esther, and she reminds me so much of my here in America. The civil rights movement was started by Rosa Parks, and I served that institute for quite a few years, and I was the founder. Was her daughter served me as executive administrative assistant, and then I found out her mom, along with another partner, opened up the Rosa Parks Institute that dealt with the civil rights movements for the entire America in North Carolina. United States of America. And I'm hearing Esther a lot. Her voice, she reminded me of her. And it's at times I almost wanted to cry because I could hear her voices because she mentored me for quite a few years, Mrs. Cabell, traveling with her, dealing with these types of things and issues and policy changes and things. And so I'm just going to say you all have done enough talking and sharing. And I would like to just say I love the theme, Rooted in Greatness. And I just wrote as I wrapped for me, I come from gross poverty. And I know that poverty will not give you a voice. You got to be elevated to another level. And I'm so glad to find so many incredible ladies here that were taught. And I just submitted a narrative in a book called Voices of Women's Unleashing Justice, because I grew up in gross poverty. And I started out my narrative by saying I grew up in a world where poverty spoke louder than potential or my potential. My clothes told stories before I ever opened my mouth. My shoes too tight or too worn announced me long before I entered the classroom. Poverty wrapped itself around me like a second skin. And the world responded not with compassion, but with silence. But on this Zoom today, we don't have that spirit of silence. For the sake of Zion, the scripture says, we will not be silenced. And what I'm hearing is a whole synergetic mindset about we got to open our mouths and bring everybody together. I love what Esther just talked about, and you talked about all of this stuff. You're in the right place, changing these policies. And I'm a ref coach, and I've learned that my girlfriends, all of us, we've raised up 10 millionaires. We birthed them out, and we recognize is that our money has gotten us into place, but we also have to have an increase in intellectual capital. What you all are saying, we've got to know what we're coming there for. We have to have strategies when we get there. But money has gotten me in the door and on stages with billionaires. And the Bible says a poor man's wisdom is to be despised, and nobody don't want to hear you. You don't have a voice. So I love that we got to tackle both of these. Knowing what we need to do, we can create the strategies and systems in place. I love you all. We're talking about this. We got Professor already in UN. I was like, yay, we've got all of these sisters coming together. But one of the things I learned in 2019, reading a book, that there is a 200 years plus wealth gap still different in the African American community versus our white counterparts. And so I wanted for me, hearing your stories, I cried out to God in 2001, how can I get into the nations, God? How can I help and become more global minded? And then I found out it's not enough just to know to get in there. I had to have some money. So I'm here to pray for your causes, that doors will be open. This is where faith also come in. It's doors of warfare. She talks about the warfare that comes. And I'm landing the plane now to say that you're going to have the warriors behind the scene to open the doors when nobody else said he can't do it. He'll move people. So we have been able to shut stuff down just by having the component of prayer. The Institute, Rosa Parks Institute here that started the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King in America, they came to me when the first Black president was becoming Obama was scheduled. Basically, we kind of knew he was going to win, but they came to me and said, I need somebody that's going to work in the area of diversity. Now, we've done everything we know to do. We've done civil rights movements. We've had the Black Power movement. We had the affirmative action, all of that. So what is it now? They said, we're going to need someone that have diversity inside of their bellies, that naturally, though, there's a natural proclivity. It not just bring you. One of the things that we can make a mistake while we're fighting for our own, we got to have alliances with those others in power that might not look like us. And so they told me, said, we need somebody now. We need diversity work that will pray. We done everything else, the civil rights movement. We still here struggling. So they found out I had a network that was based on racial reconciliation for all nations of people. And so I will say and so the night that Obama, they asked me to lead it on a national level. President Obama was, and one of the things they wanted to do a 365 days, I think, days of prayer. I know it was long, every day to cover him, to make sure he would not die, or any of the issues and challenges and policies and procedures y'all are moving in, that they would not die, that these powers to be would not destroy what he was trying. So I led that, and we traveled the nations, making sure, coming against, talking, even having whites in the room, dealing with white privilege. They were able to accept the information because we put prayer first to tear down all those spirits that will come to destroy what you all are trying to do. So I'm here to say, sister, we see the greatness in us. I appreciate Abigail, Joy, for the work, how you bring everybody together, because we have to have one voice. And we're getting ready to unite again. I've been asked to head up a national, which will eventually be global voice, a unification, because they will filter out what we say. And I love it. There was so much said here, and that's true. We got to be careful that we don't riot against one another because of what they tell us or what we hear on social media and things. We got to get the right information And you all been saying it the whole while, but I've been working a lot years ago, really with my white counterparts. I'm the only African American in the room in the state, my state there with the governors and high up. Why is that? Because I know for some of them think that they thought I was an influence, but also they thought I probably didn't have the biggest voice, but they didn't realize I had God and that's where my superpower was. We have shut down entire systems, shut down regional things here, because with the secret sauce was we were just not doing it through natural, but you definitely have to have the natural. And so I just want to say, I salute Lumi, everything, this African Women's Day, you're celebrating, bringing all these women from all walks of life, and that's what I know for the rest of my life. I said, I want to champion women's. I want them to be their best. I want them to have their best, but I don't want them fighting by themselves. I want them to know that this is a tribal move, and we can do this together. We just have to lay all this petty aside. And so the bigger things now is the policies and procedures and the systems. And you all already said it. And I love you and thank you for just honoring me today as one of these 30 or 31 ladies. Thank you, Lumi, for recommending me. God bless you. Lady Emma, I just met you. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Shirley Clarke. Thank you so much for that closing comment. We really appreciate you and congratulations. Now let's hand it over to Emma. Miss Emma, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Lumbi. I see Dr. Nkosana Zuma on the screen, online. Can I give her a chance to say hello to us?
Yes, please.
If she's online. Sorry for giving you this chance without pre-information.
Great.
There she is. Welcome, Mama. We call them Mama because these are our leaders. We call them Mama, meaning big respect. Welcome. You can speak. You're on mute. She's on mute. She is on mute. I saw her up. You don't need to put a video because it's just a sudden. You can just hear your voice. It's okay. Dr. Nkosana Zuma. Well, I'm worried that maybe she's not in a position where to speak, but your recognition is highly appreciated here. Please, can we give her a round of applause that we all appreciate her to being here? Thank you very much, Mama. Thank you to our incredible panelists and engaged audience. Today's conversation reminded us the African women are truly rooted in greatness. Leading change, shaping narratives, and driving impact. As we close, let's remember there should be no division, no separation, regardless of our backgrounds or titles. We are one, and we are stronger when we rise together. Let's take this forward, connect beyond today, get to know one another, support each other, and lead the intention. Unity and collaboration is our greatest tool for transformation. Thank you very much. Let me hand over to our host, Miss Joyce. Joyce. Yep.
Wow. I am also here, excited, sitting in the background, listening to powerful guest speakers. And I'm going to add all of you here. And of course, Doctor, we are very happy to have you here. Nkosazana, if you are able to unmute, I know you've been following us for years, part of the Pan-African Women, which most of you people have need to follow up and see what are the really, really core founders of the POWER. We call them POWER, the Pan-African Women Organization. We always have quite a lot of support behind, and I'll mention that later. But as soon as she's able, I've sent a chat on her text, and if she's able to talk, we will invite her here as well. It's always an honor. This topic has been, oh, wow, I've learned a lot. I was just listening in the background because I thought, sometimes you need to leave the people who are experts, because as a Kenyan diaspora, I live in Germany, it's totally different. And the discussion also for the African community on the ground, we are not able to resonate. And you have elaborated very clearly what it is about, because we are disconnected. And what I heard most, and I would like to ask all our listeners here, that to leave one word or one sentence on the chat, what you will come out that came out of you from this discussion, because it's very, very important to get. For me, it has to be our voices must be heard. I kept hearing it over and over and over from all the panelists. Our voices matter. And how coincidence is that? Because that's what you're doing, the Africa's Women Day awareness. It's just about airing out, people getting to know what it is about. It's a day we own. It's a day we need to celebrate. And this is the same thing. And this stage we actually prepared for you. It was a very, very challenging, one of the most challenging topic I have today we have done so far. But we hang on it, and we said we're going to do our research with our little knowledge. Being African diaspora from Africa, it's a space that you had to be done a lot of research. And it's in this case why I'm here now to really to appreciate a big group that has worked quite a lot in the background to put this thing together. And as I do the closing remarks as well. So first of all, I want to also recognize very important people, and you have been seeing them here as well, but it's good to also mention it over and over again. How do we get here? Because also this is something also for anyone looking at awareness. How do you get there? I hear finance. Oh, I love that word, finance. That's why we stick virtual to manage finance. Without finance, you cannot go anywhere. And we have a lot of support behind. And the team, as you see here, I keep repeating them. You have seen them here over. And it's important to acknowledge because they're giving out their time, and time is money, and including myself. So as this initiative started, came through the Africa Women in Europe and the Africa Women in Trade. Me doing my little thing that I found a name called Africa Women in Europe, Africa's Women Day on the calendar of Africa Union. I had no idea that I was the only one who only know the day. Before that, the group grew. People became interested to support this, and like-minded people always pull each other. And this is the case that happened here. We have grown, and organizations later got to know about POWER when we started doing our research. I said, oh, wow, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, because that's something as us diasporans all over, we might think there is nothing existing. Research is very important, not to reinvent the wheel. Work with what is there. So we work together with POWER as a supporters and advisors. We're still working on the MOU, and I still have to put that on their table over and over again. But we are happy to work with them as much and give us support we have. And together with other supporters, as you can see there, the Africa Women in Trade. Have a look at that. We support women in Africa in trade, doing businesses, and also the Africa Women in Europe that I founded just with my niece, wanting to know where everybody else is and what is doing. In over 17 years, it has grown. We have events and over almost going now 20. And it's amazing when you meet the like-minded people and you work together as a particular mission and goal. one person who has done very well, and I also want to market her now as I'm still talking, because you also have to remember finance is important as well. And sometimes it's not finance, sometimes it's kind, sometimes you have services you need. So one of our biggest supporter in finance. Everything you see beautiful of Africa Women is done by JGUSL designers and Abigail, who has been here doing the introduction, as you heard before. I don't see her in the list here. Abigail, put on your camera so that people can see you. And this is something that has been very, very powerful for us, working also with the youth. And when I met Abigail, was a very young lady, very nervous. We always mentor. That's why I leave the stage, encourage from the back end, and this youth passing on. And we see a lot of this happening. And before you know it, we already had Lumbi Lambo coming in. We, the JB Dondolo, very mouthful, but remember that water, sanitation, hygiene, that's the most important part. This is an organization that has helped us a lot to structure ourselves, to think about funding as well, which angles, bringing very powerful guest speakers, as you can see here. Some of them work with her in parallel in different projects, and we're very happy at that. And one that just joined out of the last minute and was very happy to join us is the Bold Sweep, and they are very, very designers of swim for African body, right? We always have to fit in, but why don't we fit on our own swimming costume that we feel comfortable in? I know other even cultures do have, like the Muslim African also have a special costumes that we would like to wear. They have this in their on their platform, and I would encourage you to check on their website. All this information is on our website, which I insist that every one of us to have a look and see everything else we have done in the past. And this is the Africa's Women Day.Africa. It will be on the chat as well. Simple, we use everything Africa, not .com, not anything. www.africaswomenday.africa. This is very important to use our own recognition. Also, these things are available on the internet. And thank you to the digital space. So I'm very excited because of all these partners and more partners we are looking at. As I'm speaking right now, we're going to open a position for researchers, youth who are interested to come and support. Financing partners, you're very welcome. This is a space we can all grow together with different themes, and we are very excited about that. We are also on LinkedIn, I think on profile, Facebook. We also have a WhatsApp group, and we'll share the WhatsApp group as well so that you can join. And this activity, we dedicate the whole month of July, as it was mentioned. So we are excited to make sure that you are all also part of this, and very excited to see next year what is coming up. As you know, we always have to follow the Africa Union. It's a very tough. Sometimes we go out of our way to see also how other than political, also socially and economical empowerment, how we can also support this in different topics. So next year we'll be sharing out all this information. And as well, we will also invite more speakers. If anyone here was spotlighted and you'd like to come back and speak, we do have webinars that continue throughout the year until we closer to July next year. So it's probably a whole year now. From now, you can come, we can give you a space here to speak to women. The same topic we have here. We had 31 women, which I'll play again at the end of this. So I think I've mentioned most of the most important things, but the most important person I want to thank is you. You made time to come here and be part of this and spared your time. You want to know what is this Africa's Women Day. Every other day I get this question over and over again. It looked like I made it up. No. Look at Africa Union calendar. It's been there for over 60 years. It's your day. Celebrate it in your own communities, in your own way, a whole month, and it continues as well also next month. And the founders do come here different topics, different years, to also talk about their power, what was the initiative behind, and what you can all learn from them, because it's more of leadership. And they have a lot of program. I encourage you to go to their website. And I also want to thank someone who else is a very dear, is Emma Kawawa. Your camera just went off. She is very, very dynamic lady doing amazing project in Africa. And I would like you to just Google her name and follow her with all her projects. And I know she didn't mention about some upcoming projects she's doing, but you can see that as well on LinkedIn, and very active. These are women who have dedicated time for empowering women and also running projects as well. So we need more the diaspora coming in with the financial. We know you have a lot of energy, a lot of money, so many places we can direct you where you can do best according to your expertise. So Africa Women in Europe, the Africa Women in Trade, and also all our partners here are happy to also embrace you, also to join this project in Africa. Don't feel alone in the continent, or feeling any contact you need. Also, whoever is listening, reach out to us. Which field are you in? Which area would you like? And we can link you up with the right people at the core of the discussion. I promise you, they are waiting for you to make the jump. So I want to thank you, everyone. I don't know if anyone will have any comment before we close. I want to hand over to Abigail, who's been doing good work, also to give a small feedback, and also to hear her views as well. How did we do?
Thank you so much, Joy. I'm just very honored. I'm very honored and humbled. And I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to be in the midst of such great wisdom. I hope to have more conversations, even in Women's Month for next year. I hope we can also carry on these conversations. I saw Dr. Zuma's mic open at some point. I don't know if she probably wanted to say something, but I think she's muted again. Is she still here?
Let me promote her. We would really love to hear her.
Her mic was open at some point.
Okay, she's back. I think she's joining. Okay, is she? Yeah, there you are. Yes, we can see you now. You can unmute. You're on the stage.
Hello.
Oh, there you are. Yes, we can hear you. Finally, welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for this meeting. Even though I joined a bit late, I really enjoyed all the speakers. But I think what I want to say, because I know it's 8 o'clock, is that we should work together. I want to invite you to a meeting that will take place in Ghana, end of January, beginning of February. It's called the Africa Prosperity Network Dialogue. And the theme for next year is women, youth, small and medium enterprises. I think you can make a big contribution to that dialogue. I would really like to invite you. I will send the link for registration to the organizers of this meeting, so that we can then meet with some of you. I don't want to do much of your time, but I thank you for celebrating, because this day is very important. The first Pan-African organization was the Pan-African Women's Organization that was established 1 year before the OEU. So the women were the pathfinders, not just for women, but for the entire continent. So I think this day needs to be celebrated. Women need to be celebrated, but we also need to chart our way forward as African women, not only on the continent, but African women on the continent and on the diaspora. So next time, I hope we can have more time and I can speak, but I really want to invite you to the Ghana meeting. As I say, it's called the Africa Prosperity Network Dialogue.
Yes.
Please, we would love to see you there. Thank you.
Oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much for the invitation. I have seen the invitation, the links, and surely you can share with us. We're going to share on all these platforms. Diaspora, you have been all invited. It's a huge, huge event prepared for a long time. And I think the organizer has the same name as mine, Joy. And they've been doing amazing work. And I want to also take your offer to come and speak. We're going to give you a stage to really come here and talk about, especially this topic for the diaspora. I think they need to hear you, the journey you went through and how it looks like, especially working as a woman in the continent. And I know you have been our guests in the past. We have really celebrated. You also invited me in Cape Town with Africa Women in Trade. That was marvelous from this beautiful network. So there's a lot of network. Thank you so, so much for accepting to join us here. And it's such an honor to have power women here, a very, very powerful women in the continent. And I appreciate it as well. And I hand over to Emma because Emma, I'm sure she has something to say as well. You're muted.
Thank you very much, Joy. I'm getting excited when hearing from Mama Dr. Zuma speaking. Oh, he made our day. Really, she made our day. Definitely, we need her more in all our activities because these are women who give wisdom to us, and they have a lot to share. With her title, her seat, we need to remind her what we have been speaking in the past. We need a seat. Women need a seat in every platform. All these multinational organizations, women need a seat where we can speak our issues. They should not speak about us, but we should be present. We should speak on our own. Mama, thank you very much. I hope to meet you soon. I'm speaking from Tanzania. I'm always doing this. And we always, every year we do together with Joy, but unfortunately this year I didn't do anything. I pushed my conference to November due to our elections. I think you're aware in Tanzania, but we'll see you in Ghana next year and maybe in November this year in Tanzania. Thank you. You're most welcome. All of you are welcome to Tanzania this year, November.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to give also the guest speakers a chance to speak as well as you recognize our, I call her Her Excellency as well, Madam. So Esther, I'll give you a chance to also as you continue giving us your parting shot as well, as we recognize our guest of honor who just came in.
Yes, thank you, Mama Zuma, and everyone. I guess what I've been reflecting on is the centrality and the power of women. Yeah. It's great that we're doing this, but our contributions need to be recognized much more widely in society. We are the first teachers, we are the carriers of culture. We are the builders of civilizations. And that's a huge honor that we have and a huge contribution that we've been making. So just honoring all women today, all of our mothers, all of our grandmothers, all of our ancestresses that guide us, that protect us, that inspire us.
Thank you so much, so much. Over to you, Professor Verena.
Thank you so much. I want to applaud and recognize Mama Zuma. What a privilege to have had her in this space and have her address us. This was so marvelous. I am still almost like in shock that I was actually in this space to experience this. So that's the first thing. I also want to appreciate all those who took the time to put comments in the chat and to actually say what their takeaways are, some of them anyway, from this whole exercise. we really appreciate it. And if at some point this webinar, this meeting, I mean, if we could tell us how we can see it again, what's the link? I would appreciate that, because it's not always easy to absorb everything when you're a speaker in a space and you're thinking of what's the next thing to say, you know. So to enjoy it at a different time would be amazing. I want to say what a privilege it was to meet all the amazing women in this chat and on this webinar. Thank the organizers for even thinking about putting it together. I want to, as I started, to wish all the women, all African women, wherever you find yourself, happy Africa's Women's Day. I'm one of those people who actually knew about it, but never interacted with any of the events. So it was an honor for me to be here. And I'm so grateful to have been one of those women recognized, one of the 31. And as we leave and as I leave, and because tomorrow in my part of the world will be August 1, Emancipation Day, and I think it's recognized also in various African countries. And in the UK, I don't know if, yes, I think I saw there's a march tomorrow. I have been on one of those marches, but we have a lot of work to do. And I think we are actually feeling a sense of empowerment, one, because of the recognition, but also because of what we learn from each other today. And I go away feeling really happy. And I want to honor my ancestors, as we will do tonight at what we call a jubilee. And into tomorrow morning, we'll have a vigil. I am not happy about where the vigil is kept every year, because it was a plantation house. I really agonize over that. But for now, that's where it is. We did return one of the enslaved women on that plantation to Ghana in a ceremonial reburial with Carson from the USA. And I know Panafest is going on now in Ghana. So I hope I'll be able to be a part of next year's event. And as I said, as I think about tomorrow, I want to honor all those women and men who fought for our freedom. Even as freedom is still being negotiated in some other ways. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was quite useful information there, and thank you for doing what you're doing in the US. It's out of your heart, and we see the passion in that as well. I'll hand over also to Dr. Shali as well, and then Lumbi, and then Abigail, I think I cut you short to do the last one. So over to you, Dr. Shali.
Amen. Listen, I am so honored again to be here. It's like, you know, I'm among my peeps, as we can say in colloquial language. Listen, this today definitely was a tribute to every woman that have rose above adversity, you know, broken generational cycles. I can see that some of you just gone beyond any limitation that were ever put on you. So today, I would say it was a salute to mothers of innovations, guardians of your cultural, you know, all of us African women's that are set up to be the strength and the vein of what this society is, how you say, is in society. So for me, I'm excited to be among all these incredible ladies. I feel like you are my sisters. My family has grown today. I love you. I love the spirit that you came in to really celebrate, but also to educate and to bring us together to think how we can move, that future. How can we birth out the next level of incredible ladies? How can we take all that we have and make sure we all win? And that's what I like about what you're doing here, Jora. God bless you. Thank you, Lumi, and all of you for your voices today. God bless.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Lumbi.
Well, I'm always, really like shocked when others speak because they leave me voiceless. I feel like, I just want to, just salute you guys and just heads off to you guys because your words are so powerful. I mean, they really are powerful. It's like I can feel it within me that you guys really mean it and you mean what you're saying. Your words carry a lot of weight, and I'm just looking forward to see how far this is gonna go, how far you're gonna take it, because I think we're up to something here, something big and something that is worth, exploring, actually taking a journey on, and being a part of. So everything that has been said, I am so grateful. I'm really like just celebrating. I mean, just with joy, because I can't stop, celebrating you guys, because I can see that we are in a room full of, it's a powerhouse. It's a room full of, minds, great minds, when you take all the great minds and put them together, you create this ball of like fire, that says, let's do it, let's go for it, let's be great. So with that being said, let's go be great. Let's go be great. And thank you so much for everything that you've shared here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, and over to you, the youngest in the room, CEO, Madame Abigail.
I'm just saying thank you. I'm just grateful. Thank you, everyone. And I thank God that it was a success. It was a lot of planning, and I'm just grateful for how it turned out. A lot of times, to me, it's not about the numbers, it's about the impact. And I really feel like I've taken something out of here. So thank you so much. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for being there. It has been like almost, we're planning 2 hours, and I think it's just gone almost 3 hours now. And I'm very appreciative for your patience. This is recorded, so all the speakers, you can listen to this quietly later on YouTube. So the YouTube link will be shared as well. And so many, all our other presentations over the past 5 years, and also to air it out today is the 5th, the awareness program of the Africa's Women Day. It's all about you. Africa woman, celebrate. You got the gene, the one that produced the everybody on this earth. It is confirmed, and we have to celebrate this day. So I want to celebrate you, all of you today, and it's your day, and celebrate it with all others and share. And I think sharing is caring. That's the most important thing. So I'm going to end this with a presentation of all the women, the 31 women that we shared, you've never heard of or you've never seen. And take your time. We will share these again in full on YouTube as well. Download it there for the first time so that everybody can have this also for the future and the generation. That's what digital space is for. So I'm going to share with you, and I wish you a lovely, lovely evening.
Thank you again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. And
Thank you
we
so
shall have
much.
an evening.
Thank
God
thank
bless.
you.